Speaker, a few weeks ago I spent some time with school principals across Ryde. The conversations were not what I expected. I was told teachers are no longer competing just for attention. They are competing with social media platforms designed by some of the smartest engineers in the world to be more interesting than mathematics, more compelling than reading, and more rewarding than getting an answer right. Parents tell me that they are not sure how to set boundaries when the device sits in every pocket, on every dinner table, and on every desk. Young people themselves tell me, often quite candidly, that they would like to use these platforms less, but find it difficult. They are not new concerns, but the patterns that I am now hearing are very different. It is less about specific incidents and more about a general cognitive landscape that has shifted beneath us. I wanted to use this statement to begin examining the impact of social media on education and social development, not just for children, but who are the focus of most of our recent reforms, but for adults too. For young people, the data is becoming difficult to dismiss. Headspace reports last year that nearly half of young Australians, around 49%, are experiencing high or very high levels of psychological distress, rising to 65% for those aged 18 to 25. We all know anecdotally that smartphones and social media have played a causal role in the decline of young Australians' mental well-being since their proliferation within the last 2 decades. That decline tracks alongside and is concurrent with falling academic results in international assessments and rising teacher reports about classroom behaviour and concentration. I'm not suggesting that social media is the only cause. The story is more complex, but it is now an unavoidable variable. For adults, the conversation has barely begun. We talk about screen time as if it were a problem reserved for children. But while I have since deleted these apps, many of us in this place know that it is what it is to pick up a phone for a specific purpose and find ourselves 20 minutes later watching a stranger argue with another stranger about something we did not know about and probably won't remember. We know what it is to sit down to read a long article and feel our concentration drift after just 2 paragraphs. We know what it is to wake at night and reach for the phone before we reach for the light. The cognitive consequences of this pattern are worth taking seriously. Sustained attention is how human beings learn complex things, build complex relationships, and produce complex work. If we are losing the capacity for it, we are losing something foundational. Social development is the second part of this. Schools have always been one of the great social training grounds. The negotiation of friendships, the resolution of arguments, the awkwardness and the resilience that comes from being physically present with other people who are different to you. Increasingly, the social training ground is a feed. A feed does not teach negotiation, it teaches engagement. It teaches that the loudest voice gets noticed, that disagreement is performed rather than worked through, and that other people are content to be consumed and ranked rather than relationships to be invested in. I'm not arguing that we should ban or punish all technology. The benefits are real and most of us will continue to use these platforms regardless. But I think that we should be much more honest with ourselves about what the platforms are doing to the way that we think, the way that we relate to each other, and the way that our children learn. I note efforts to reduce the age of social media access and to ban mobile phones from schools. These are welcome steps, but an incomplete solution. We need to look at what is being done about digital literacy in schools and whether it is keeping pace with platforms that change every few months, in fact, every few days. We need to look at how teacher training is preparing educators for an environment in which short-form video is the dominant medium for information for many of their students. We need to be willing to ask whether some of what we accept as normal adult behaviour, including in this place, is actually optimal for the kind of thinking that public office demands and that our society demands. I will continue to bring concerns from the Ryde community to this chamber as the year progresses. For now, I simply want to put the issue squarely on the table, that if we are serious about education and human development in this state, we cannot leave the question of what social media is doing to attention, to learning and relationships at the edges of our conversations and debate. It belongs at the centre, and that's where I intend to keep it.